Scammers are stealing billions of dollars from America's seniors, and they're ramping up their efforts. With calls, texts, or clicks, they can steal a senior's entire life savings. But we have the power to stop these criminals. AARP is fighting for bipartisan, common-sense solutions to protect older Americans' hard-earned money from scammers. Join us today. Visit action.aarp.org/fraud pledge. Paid for by AARP.
Welcome to the program. No Victocrats allowed because we've got a country to save. So let's get her teed up!
You want to play what? Say hello to my little friend. What the hell's going on out here?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
888-971-SAGE. 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Former VP Mike Pence, despite his issues with President Trump, has defended the war against Iran. The Treasury Secretary describes what he calls economic fury against Iran. Al Sharpton accuses Florida Governor Ron DeSantis of using, and I'm quoting the Reverend, an offensive accent when DeSantis did an impression of Hakeem Jeffries. The California Post calls Bill Maher's interview with Gavin Newsom blistering. It wasn't even close to blistering. The Seattle socialist mayor says if millionaires leave her state because of its new millionaires tax, well, goodbye. Ronald Reagan warned about socialism through government-paid-for health care for seniors. The low-cost airline Spirit is now out of business. Spirit tried to merge with JetBlue, but the Biden administration blocked it, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg bragged about doing so. Democrat Michigan Senate candidate wants ICE abolished. What else is new among Democrats? All of this and more, 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. We're going to get to the status of the Iran war. President Trump says he's going to make sure that ships can now go through the strait. Let's start, however, with the blistering interview between Bill Maher and Gavin Newsom. Now, Bill Maher, during the interview, at one point referred to Gavin as Gavin, first name basis, mentioned that he supported him. If it was any more cozy, I would have said, get a room. Let's hear some of it. Number 42.
So you heard what I ended there with, the billionaire tax, and I know you are against the billionaire tax. So this is interesting to people who don't live here and follow it. They would think, oh, Gavin Newsom, far lefty, he's going to be for the billionaire tax, but you're not.
Well, I think billionaires do need to be taxed more, but just not at the state level. Capital moves. And the challenge with this particular tax is it doesn't include firefighters and teachers. They're left out of the tax.
Here's the point where Bill Maher should have said, well, Gavin Newsom, you just now said you're opposed to the billionaires tax, but billionaires need to be taxed more. You must be familiar with the Washington Post editorial recently that said rich people are overtaxed. But here you are demanding rich people be paid even more tax when a left-wing organization like the Washington Post says rich people are, in fact, overtaxed. However, in the blistering interview, Bill Maher didn't say that, did he? Continue.
One time, and we've already seen dozens and dozens of people leave the state. But my state of mind is crystal clear. At a federal level, the imbalance between the rich and the poor has got to be addressed. And the issue of ultra-wealthy, folks like Buffett, folks like Bezos, folks like Bloomberg, paying 1% to 2% tax. You pay, Bill, a hell of a lot more.
I talked about it last week. They taxed it out of us, the regular rich.
Okay, all right. People like that are paid 1% to 2% in taxes. Bill, is that true? 1% to 2%, and Bill Maher let that go? The top 10% pay 75% of the federal income taxes. The bottom 50% pay less than 4 or 5%. Those are facts. Now, are the so-called hyper-wealthy doing something illegal? Many of the so-called hyper-wealthy get their income through passive income, capital gains, not through regular earnings like people like Bill Maher and baseball players. That's the difference. And Bill Maher could have brought that up, but of course this was a blistering interview. More?
No one stands up for the regular rich.
No one's standing up. And two with the point. So for the ultra wealthy, we've got to deal with a stepped up basis. We've got to deal with the fact that we're not taxing capital gains and income tax or ordinary income. We've got to address the fact they're borrowing.
Notice Bill Maher referred himself as the regular rich. You see, that's the billionaire class, and then there's just the regular rich. I'm just the regular rich guy, says Bill Maher. He didn't bring up the fact that, by the way, California was never a slave state, but Gavin Newsom signed legislation to set up a board for reparations for black descendants of slavery, even though California wasn't a slave state. That didn't come up, but let's go.
Against tax about their capital gains, and they're passing on these massive trusts without any taxation to the next generation. All of that needs to happen, but this particular tax is not the answer.
Okay, but we're not here to talk about politics. You what?
Does this sound like a blistering interview, according to California Post? We're not here to talk about politics, Gavin. Later on, he says, Gavin, Gavin, I say this as a friend, Gavin. Gavin, you got to give up the bullet train. And I say this as a friend. Let's continue.
I want to talk about
your book.
Oh, that's it. A politician with a book.
You forgot what you're doing.
I forgot. This is a book tour.
You're on a book tour.
I'm on a book tour. A young man in a hurry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, it's just about the book. We're not talking about it. It's just about the book.
Yes, sir.
How is the book affecting your campaign for president? No, it's a.
I know it's a cliche.
I will say this. I don't know why everybody running for president, not that you are, wink, wink, has to write a book.
Here's a part where, Gavin, the Democrats' issue is affordability. How can you, with a straight face, run in an environment where Donald Trump is being attacked for not focusing on affordability? California, the home prices in California, which is the number one reason young people cite for leaving, is twice that the national average. And large part of that is because of the extreme environmental policies and regulations that Democrats like you have put on them. And with all due respect, Gavin, you and I are friends. We're on a first-name basis. You're a more climate change extremist than Joe Biden, who referred to climate change as an existential threat. You even tried one time before you walked it back to ban the sale of gas-powered cars by the year 2035 here in California. Yet you're going to run in an environment where people are concerned about affordability, highest gas prices in the nation, highest electricity prices in the lower 48? How can you, with a straight face, run on the issue of affordability here in California when the state has become so unaffordable? Please. Continue.
This one is different.
Yeah.
It is not your typical book that a politician writes. It's better. First of all, it's not sentimental.
No.
And it's really your voice.
Yes.
It's what?
No,
Does this sound like a blistering interview to you? Hey, first of all, this is a different book than the other ones normally. Yeah, is that why Gavin Newsom took, $1.5 million out of his campaign funds to buy the book so it could become a bestseller? Because it's such an authentic book. It's your voice. It's not your basic. Get a room. Continue.
Keep going.
No, it is.
I'm enjoying this.
It is. I mean, and it's honest in the sense that you didn't have the easy time a lot of people think.
Yeah.
You had what I would call a normal family. Every family's a little messed up, right? And that was yours.
Teenage mom, divorced family, a mom that worked 2-3 jobs all her life, and a father that was distant and years and years trying to connect with him. And finally, I was able to do it. And he was there for the day I got elected governor, passed away shortly thereafter. And so it's a story that's very familiar with a lot of folks. And it's a story that's really a love letter to single moms. My rock star mom that just did everything.
And a father who was general counsel to Getty Oil, and that's one of the reasons you were able to start your wine business, but that kind of didn't come up either, did it? Let's continue.
So, But Bill, I appreciate what you're saying. This is not a book, this is not some triumphant BS book. I mean, I tried to scrutinize my life. I wasn't trying to sanitize anything, and I went back all my mistakes. If you don't like me, you should buy this in bulk, because there's all kinds of issues there that can exploit. But it's an honest portrayal of this young man in a hurry who put a mask on, and my face started growing into it, and I was becoming someone that I didn't want to be. And a big part of, why I wrote it was just let go. Yeah. And just start to be myself.
Here's the part where Bill Maher says, okay, this is all wonderful. Let's talk about homelessness here in California. More homeless here than anywhere else. You were a 2-term mayor of San Francisco, says Bill Maher. And you promised by the end of your 2nd term that homelessness in that city would be eliminated. I've been to San Francisco recently. Have you, Gavin Newsom? And when you were lieutenant governor, which you did for 8 years, you sat around complaining you had nothing to do. I suggested that perhaps you go back to the city by the bay and complete the job of dealing with homelessness, which is what you promised to do after you left, before you left office and as a mayor of that town. This is the part where Bill Maher is supposed to say that, but it didn't really come up, did it? More on this blistering interview with Governor Gavin Newsom. And even on the bullet train, which Bill Maher brought up, gave a price tag. Gavin Newsom denied the price tag. The board, by the way, that's governing this thing, delayed its vote. So we have no idea what the price tag is. But he gave him a bunch of numbers, and Bill Maher, blistering interview. I'm Larry Elder. Don't go away. Parents, the biggest question in education today is how artificial intelligence is shaping the way your student learns. Artificial intelligence is changing education faster than most schools are willing to admit, and many families are rightly concerned. At Patrick Henry College, the goal isn't to outsource thinking to machines. It's to train students to think for themselves. PHC emphasizes a Christian liberal arts education that develops reasoning, writing, speaking, and discernment skills no algorithm can replace. Students learn to engage technology wisely, understanding its capabilities, but also its danger and limitations, rather than becoming dependent on it. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, Patrick Henry College prepares students to lead with wisdom, conviction, and moral clarity. If you want a college that prepares your child to lead in an AI-driven world without losing his or her faith and values, I encourage you to learn more about Patrick Henry College. Visit phc.edu/elder. That's phc.edu/elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, Salem News Channel. We are talking about the so-called blistering interview, which is how the California Post described the interview between Bill Maher and Gavin Newsom. Blistering. On a first-name basis, Bill Maher mentions that he supported him. They did talk about the high-speed train, which we're going to get to later on in the interview. And even then, when Bill Maher gave a price tag of over $200 billion, it was sold as costing $35 billion when taxpayers foolishly voted for it, or voters foolishly voted for it. And Gavin Newsom spouted out a bunch of numbers, and there was no pushback whatsoever by Bill Maher. But let's continue.
My face started growing into it, and I was becoming someone that I didn't want to be. And the big part of why I wrote it was just let go. Yeah. And just start to be myself, warts and all, and love me or hate me.
Well, they will pick out things like that in the campaign and use them against you. I know, I'm just saying.
What campaign are you keep referring to? Unbelievable.
You're right.
Unbelievable, Bill. Really. Really.
I meant your book tour. No, but I mean, you are officially the front runner. I mean, they do polling, and you are the front runner of the Democratic Party. Well, okay, that's just a fact. That's just a fact.
I appreciate it.
As the heat gets heatier, it must worry you. I mean, what you saw this weekend in Washington with not just coming after you, obviously, when you run for office, the horrible things people write and people say, and there is nothing off limits to take you down.
No.
And you've already been there, but it only gets worse the closer you get to the prize.
That's right.
What did you think when you saw that this weekend?
Well, evil. I mean, you got to condemn it. You got to call it out. And so I don't like the rhetoric on either side. We all have to be held to a higher level of accountability. So, that's easy to condemn. But there's also an asymmetry here. You have the President of the United States that sets the tone and tenor for this country. And that's not a partisan statement. That's an institutional statement. Right. He's the president. And you just made the point. What did he do the day after? He talked about, a beach photo and an indictment of one of his enemies. He talked about his ballroom, his Kremlin ballroom. He's not doing anything to try to unite this country in any way,
now
shape.
Here's the part where Bill Maher is supposed to say, well, Governor, nothing you've said rises to the level of referring to somebody as a Nazi. Nothing you've said rises to the level of referring to somebody as Hitler, as a fascist, as a dictator, which is what our side, says Bill Maher, has been saying about this man. I don't like this man, says Bill Maher, it should have said. I didn't vote for him, says Bill Maher. But honestly, do you really believe that the things that you've just now mentioned are the same thing as referring to the President of the United States as not having been duly elected, as having been put there by the Russians, which is what former President Jimmy Carter said, of calling the election stolen, which is what Hillary did for 4 years? Terry McAuliffe, the former chair of the DNC, also referred to him as illegitimate. Do you think these are the kinds of things that are equivalent to what Donald Trump has said when he's put people down? And say what you will about James Comey, but a grand jury did indict him. Trump didn't force the grand jury to indict this man. Don't you think our side should apologize and stop referring to the President of the United States as a fascist and a Nazi and a dictator? Don't you think we should back down a little bit? But did that come up? Of course not. Continue.
Or form. And, for me, that's to me, that's the biggest reflection of this moment is how just the sewer that we're now living in because of Donald Trump. And he's allowed all of it to us to feel free to shove again. And I think
the sewer we're now in because of Donald Trump. And he's made it now for us to feel free to shove again. This is what you're talking about? Bill, here's what you're supposed to say. What about his policies? What about the fact that for 4 years we were told that the border was secure when we knew it wasn't? Cut on the television, watch people flooding over the border, and you had the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas look at you in the eye and say, under oath, the border is secure. What about that? And you must concede, Governor, before the war in Iran, gas prices were at a 5-year low. And you must concede, Governor, that for the 4 years of the Biden administration, we were averaging 5% inflation. Now, inflation has ticked up a little bit, but it's not 5%. What about the fact that he negotiated the release of the hostages in Gaza and their remains? And don't you think it's a good idea that Iran is no longer an immediate threat because Donald Trump took out their nuclear capability? Don't you think this is a good idea? And didn't Obama join the French and the British in bombing Libya without getting congressional approval? You haven't said anything at all about his policies. You've talked about his personality, making it okay for us to shove against each other. What about what he's done as president? Continue.
Nothing else. Forget.
But many people would say that you are imitating him. You, among all the people who may or may not be running, you're the one who kind of imitates his style with the trolling. You're suing Fox now.
Now, Bill Maher is getting credit for saying this. Well, here you are talking about Donald Trump, but weren't you trolling him as well? Notice how he said it. Many people would say, I'm not going to say it, but many people would say. What a wussy way of asking a question. How about, Governor, aren't you being hypocritical? You go on X and you curse, use the 4-letter words, drop F-bombs, and now you're accusing Donald Trump of lacking civility. You're doing the same thing. Well, he started it. Isn't that kind of childish? Continue.
I understand. You're saying that's
well,
right
we're
out
going
of
into discovery. Fox better look to settle right now or apologize for defamation.
But that sounds exactly like what he does. Suing media?
Different point. Well, then don't defame, don't lie. And, Fox is a propaganda
but that does sound like him.
Well, here's the point. I'm trying to put a mirror up to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
So when Donald Trump sues the media, he's not suing them because they're defaming and lying. I'm suing because they're defaming and lying. But when Donald Trump does it, he's doing it to be vindictive. Bill Maher, Should have followed that up, but you didn't. Continue.
Sense of humor as well. The deviation of normalcy is off the chart. This is a guy cosplaying as the Pope.
Hold on.
Jesus.
I'm doing it with a sense of humor. You don't think Trump does it with a sense of humor? As Antoinette says from Sunset Beach, the man is a crack-up. Continue.
This guy putting his face on Mount Rushmore, doing it in all cap. None of this is normal. And you may recall when I first started doing this, the folks on Fox said, this is so...
Okay. The guy's putting his face on Mount Rushmore in all caps. None of this is normal. Have you said anything about his policies? Don't you think it was a good idea to roll back DEI? And notice recruiting for the military, all-time high, because he's put back basic merit? Don't you think these things are good? A blistering interview. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. More of this blistering interview when we come back. I'm Larry Elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel coming to you from the Relief Factor studio. Don't forget your Relief Factor. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4RELIEF, 800 the number 4RELIEF. Just in, according to Reuters, U.S. Secret Service said it was on the scene of an officer-involved shooting in Washington in which one person was shot by law enforcement. The Secret Service said in a statement on X, quote, U.S. Secret Service personnel are on the scene of an officer-involved shooting at 15th Street and Independence Avenue in Washington, D.C. One individual was shot by law enforcement. Their condition is currently unknown, end of quote. The White House was briefly locked down on Monday afternoon, so it seems as if there might have been a feeling that there was some, perhaps, threat posed by this person to the White House. The Secret Service later on said the incident, quote, resulted from a confrontation between an armed individual and the Secret Service police, close quote. The D.C. Police Department said the police were on the scene of the probe, and in a statement, the D.C. police said, quote, the scene is secure. Avoid the area as roads will be closed for several hours, end of quote. So how serious this is, how close it got, if anything, to the president, we don't know yet. I will, of course, keep you informed. Now, we have been listening to this so-called blistering interview between Bill Maher and Governor Gavin Newsom. They're clearly our friends on a first-name basis. Maher mentions in the interview that he voted for him. The man has a record to run on, as does Donald Trump. Has a record that the Republicans will be defending and Democrats will be attacking before the midterms. Inflation up a little bit. The expectation for the next quarter GDP growth is anywhere from 3.5%, which isn't bad, considering we're at war with Iran. The U.S. labor force of federal employees, I don't think hasn't been this low in decades, meaning a bunch of people who used to work for the federal government no longer work for the federal government. And don't forget, Elon Musk was able to fire 70% of the workers at then called Twitter, and it kept right on going. And you're telling me there's not a whole lot of fat in the federal labor force? Donald Trump has trimmed it dramatically. Biden would brag about the jobs created when many of them were created by the government. Jobs created under this administration are created by the private sector. And I know this economy is uneven. People at the top are doing better than people at the bottom. But for crying out loud, as I said before, 5-year low in gas prices before the war started. The electricity prices before the war started. Stock market down a little bit today, but hitting near highs recently, despite the war in Iran. Consumer confidence coming back. Regulations substantially trimmed. The big, beautiful bill and the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Tax breaks for seniors on Social Security. Being able to expense 100% purchases for businesses in the first year. These things are massive. And he gets no credit for it. As I mentioned, borders secure in less than 30 days. We were told for 4 years that they were as secure as they could be given the absence of comprehensive immigration reform. There's been no comprehensive immigration reform, yet the border secured in 30 days. That's just jaw-dropping. No one even talks about it now. And the seizure of Maduro and Venezuela is now doing better. They still have rampant inflation, but the people in Venezuela appear to be perfectly okay with the relationship between us and their government right now. Isn't that massive? And as I said before, negotiating the release of the hostages in Gaza and their remains, no credit for that at all. And for 47 years, we've heard death to America, and president after president after president has said a nuclear-armed Iran is unacceptable. This president has done something about it. I read you that piece that David Boies, a prominent Democrat lawyer, wrote, where he said, look, I'm not a fan of Trump, but what he's done on Iran, we all ought to support this. Later on in this show, I'm going to play you an interview, a speech by a man who heads up a conservative think tank. He talks about President Trump's virtues that people are overlooking because of his personality and his quirks. And this is the whole thing about this interview between Bill Maher and Gavin Newsom. Can you imagine if Donald Trump was running for re-election? Highest unemployment, gas prices. I mean, this man has a record that should be embarrassing. Now, declare your independence from pain. For 250 years, Americans have believed in one powerful idea, that we were meant to live free. Free to work hard, free to move, free to enjoy life without being held back. But if everyday aches and pains are slowing you down, it might be time to declare your independence from pain. I've told you many times about my buddy Tom, avid golfer, scratch golfer. He's out almost every day. Said he couldn't pull that off because of his shoulder and back pain without Relief Factor. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free, a research-based formula designed to help your body fight inflammation, one of the root causes of pain. It's not a quick fix or a temporary mask. It works from the inside out at the source. Relief Factor was created so people could get back to living life on their terms, walking, working, exercising, and enjoying the moments that matter. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF, 800, the number 4, RELIEF. Eight 971 SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. We're going to talk about the latest developments of the Iran war coming up. And then later on in the hour, I'm going to play you a speech, tell you who gave the speech, where he talked about Donald Trump's virtues. There was an article I recently read about someone who saw the speech and felt embarrassed that he had opposed Donald Trump in 2024, that the speech made him change his mind. Essentially what the speech says is, as I've been saying for 10 years, I watched a program on the Golf Channel. I'm not a golfer, but I love the sport. And these two golfers were asked to explain what makes a great golfer. And one of them went through this long, detailed, beautiful explanation of how he can tell if someone's a great golfer by where he puts his hands, his feet, his head, his arms, his hips. It was beautiful. And the other golfer said, I look to see where the ball lands. And I've urged people for 10 years, don't pay attention to some of the stuff that Donald Trump says, the insults, the exaggerations. I consider that stuff white noise, pardon the expression. I care about his policies. I care about the economy. I care about borders. I care about excising all this DEI nonsense that we've been dealing with ever since the Obama administration put on steroids under Joe Biden. It's about merit. It's about content of character, not color of skin. And I care about a strong national security, all of which Donald Trump is delivering in spades. 888-971-SHGE, 888-971-7243. Fraud didn't come up in this interview either. As I said before, the fraud here in California makes the fraud in Minnesota look like couch cushion money. And the fraud that took place during COVID, when Gavin Newsom shut down this state in a more severe way than anybody else, blinds the eyes. And the amount of tens of billions of dollars spent to combat homelessness when homelessness has gotten even worse, and the money's not audited, don't know where it is, don't know how effective these programs have been. None of this came up during the interview either. But let's continue.
Becoming of the governor of California, he should wash out his mouth with soap and water with no situational awareness that their dear leader has been doing this for years and years and years. He's a man-child. And so I think it's important to call that out.
Okay, so here again. You know, I said a few things, and some of their supporters said Gavin Newsom should wash his mouth out with soap and water. When their dear leader has done this for years and years and years, he is a man-child. This is your problem with Donald Trump? Do you think that he was right to pressure NATO to now spend 5% of their GDP when they weren't even spending too many of the NATO countries? Something that Barack Obama complained about and George W. Bush complained about? How about that? Wasn't the economy doing well under Donald Trump until COVID? How about that? I've not heard any policy criticism so far in this interview. Have you? I've heard you think Donald Trump is a jerk and an a-hole, and the dear leader has been insulting people. I've heard that. I've not heard you give one thing about what you would say or do to deal with the so-called affordability problem that the country is plagued with. Continue.
In the United States. But again, we're not trying to dehumanize. We're just trying to reflect that reality and express the absurdity of all of this. And look, the absurdity, it's every day. It's a corruption story, the Trump administration.
Okay. Now, I'm just trying to reflect the absurdity of all of this. The absurdity of all of what? And then he accuses Donald Trump of being corrupt, of being a grifter. And Maher does not push back. Maher does not talk about any of the work that was done by people like Peter Schweizer, about the, quote, Biden crime family, about the Hunter Biden laptop, 10% for the big guy. None of that's mentioned. None of this is mentioned. Biden said he wasn't going to pardon his son. Democrats love that. I watch CNN, MSNBC, he said you don't have to. Well, Joe Biden is being principled. He says he's not going to pardon his son, and then pardon his son. I told you he's going to pardon his son. Continue.
Reference it obliquely in the opening monologue. But let's get serious. He's got 8 or 9 countries. He's done major golf course or development deals. It's meme coins and stable coins. It's a crypto. It's World Liberty Financial. It's getting, a piece of the peace. I mean, this peace board is about getting a piece for Witkoff.
Okay. Okay, you hear this? Word avalanche. Accusation after accusation after accusation. Bill Maher says nothing. How about keeping it simple? Hunter Biden, as far as I know, not a painter. Selling paintings for $500,000. Gavin Newsom, did you have a problem with that? Continue.
Kushner. You see Donald Trump Jr. in the drone companies, in the mineral companies. You're seeing the kind of corruption that's not, it's not $60 Bibles. It's not sneakers. It's not $100,000 watches. It's the greatest grift we've ever seen in our lifetime. And that also needs to be called out. We can't allow any of this to be normalized. So our social media is part of that. And that's why we got to continue to be accountable.
Okay, well,
and that is why we have to continue to be accountable. What's the fraud out here in California? The hospice fraud. The COVID fraud. What is it? No pushback whatsoever. It's got to be called out. It's got to be held accountable. As I mentioned before, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota was running for re-election and dropped his candidacy. Why? Because he knew he couldn't defend his record for overlooking all the fraud that was going on in the state. It was embarrassing. The fraud in California is probably 10 times that. But this guy with a straight face is running, and Bill Maher, in this blistering interview, did not call him out. I mean, if it had been any sweeter, any more romantic, as I said before, they have to get a room. But that's a blistering interview. You got to be kidding me. Every spam call, every scam text, every sketchy email with your name, each one starts the same way. Somebody found you. Your phone number is sitting on data broker sites as we speak. So is your home address, your email, your age, even the names of your family members. All of it searchable and for sale. And scammers don't need to be hackers to get it. They just need Google in 5 minutes. Every scam starts with one thing: your personal info being available to the wrong person. So forget the spam filters and the call blockers. The real fix? Disappear. That's what Incogni does. They contact hundreds of data brokers and legally force them to remove your information. I use Incogni to get my name and info away from these data brokers. They can't spam you. They can't find you. Right now, get 60% off with an exclusive deal at incogni.com/Larry. Go to incogni.com/Larry and take back your privacy. That's incogni.com/Larry, incogni.com/LARRY.
Tonight.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. So much to get to between now and the close of the program. We're going to talk about the war in Iran, the dissolution of an low-cost airline called Spirit. Spirit tried to merge with JetBlue during the Biden administration. The Biden administration shut it down, claiming that it would cause consumers to have fewer choices. Well, now they have even fewer choices because Spirit no longer exists. And Mayor Pete, the Secretary of Transportation, bragged about their decision. All of this and more, 888-971-SAGE. Rick is in Altadena. Rick, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Oh, thanks for taking my call, Larry. Always interesting to listen to you. And when you mentioned earlier that California was not a slave state, didn't have slaves, I have a different thought on that. With all of the massive number of government regulations across the board that are being pushed down on people, some of whom have no desire to comply with them, get no benefit from it, and in the case of collecting food waste in the kitchen and taking it to the green can, not only the time involved, but the extra cost that the trash company incurs in doing that recycling effectively enslaves people who don't want to do that. Your thoughts on that?
No, Rick, it's a great point. Of course, I meant bondage slavery. This is the kind of slavery that slavery with representation. That is to say that California voters have voted for the Democratic Party that puts all these taxes and regulations on them. You could argue that it's a form of slavery. Only difference is it's slavery with representation. In other words, the voters have voted for this. And again, just look at where people are going. California, over the years, lost population. LA County has lost more people than any other county in the country. And the number one reason is because of affordability. Now, when's the last time there's been a Republican mayor of L.A.? When's the last time there's been any Republican politician elected statewide in California? Again, Democrats have supermajorities, not just majorities, but supermajorities in the state assembly and the state senate. Republicans need not even show up for work. And the Democrats can and often do pass one brain-dead piece of legislation after another. And then when it doesn't work, what do? They pass more brain-dead legislation, or they blame Donald Trump. I've told you many times about the minimum wage hike for fast food workers. It's cost the fast food workers at least 10,000 jobs, maybe even more. Has one lawmaker who signed onto this said, you know what, maybe we got this one wrong? We're going to finish this interview with Gavin Newsom and Bill Maher at the top, and then we're going to continue. 888-971-SAGE. Do not leave town. So let's get her teed up!
You want to play what? Say hello to my little friend! What the hell's going on out here?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
888-971-SAGE. 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Before we get to the exchange between Gavin Newsom and Bill Maher about the California high-speed train, there's something called the High Speed Rail Authority. It's their job to supervise the project. Last month, they were supposed to vote on a business plan. They said that the project's cost has now ballooned to $231 billion. It was projected initially to be $33 billion, train from L.A. to San Francisco. It's now $231 billion. This is by an estimate from their own high-speed rail authority, right? So they were supposed to have a vote. After that amount came off, they postponed the vote. The CEO of the high-speed rail authority is named Ian Chowdhury, and he promised to provide more details to lawmakers to get the project back on track, according to the New York Post. The deadline passed, came and went without enough information. And so they shelved the vote until next month. So they haven't even voted yet. But the rail authority defended its revisions. In other words, it said this is what it's going to cost right now. So keep that in mind. $231 billion, according to the High Speed Rail Authority, up from $33 billion when the project was first envisioned. Continue the interview.
It's going to be a great part of your platform. The other side, what they're going to say, though, is, but have you seen the stats from California?
Good.
What?
Fourth largest economy, let's go.
Well, are they going to say good about gas prices? Are they going to say good about how high the rents are? Yeah. So many people live. I mean, there's a whole litany. I mean, the train. Gavin, okay, the train. You got to get rid of the train.
The train.
I say this as a friend. You got to let that train go. You got to let the train go. It's up to $231 billion.
No, it's not. That's just nonsense. It's not. We're doing a $119 million segment. We got it back on track. It goes back 3 administrations. I inherited a mess. We put it back on track. All the environmental work is behind us. We're actually laying the track. All the legal litigation, all the land issues are all behind us. We're actually making this project work. And so that's a fact. Now, on the issue of California,
well, it's been a long time coming.
Of course it has.
Now you notice the applause. Now that's a fact. And notice no pushback. But Governor, your own high-speed rail authority is the one that gave that number. They're supposed to have a vote on the plan, and they punt it until next month. But you give me all these numbers. That's not the numbers the high-speed rail authority is giving. That's when Maher was supposed to say that, but of course he didn't. Continue.
For the past, I can only make up for my segment, literally and figuratively, as governor over the last 7 years. But look, you talk about California, we're the envy of the world. Since I've been governor, no other developed nation has outperformed our economy. No other state has outperformed the economy of state of California.
I think people feel that
They may not feel that in every way, shape, or form. But
no other state has outperformed us. Highest unemployment in the nation. Slowest rate of job creation in the nation. Went from a budget surplus to a budget deficit. CEO Magazine gives California the worst rating of any state and has done so for years. Texas, the best rating of any state, and has done so for years. California used to be headquartered to the top 10 oil and gas companies. Now it's headquartered to none. Governor, billionaires like Elon Musk leaving, taking their taxes with them. In and Out, no longer headquartered in California. How can you sit there with a straight face and talk about how wonderful the state is doing compared to other states in the country when people are leaving because primarily taxes, regulations, and affordability. Continue.
Dominating every key industry. We dominate in manufacturing, agriculture, hunting jobs, forestry jobs, more scientists, more Nobel laureates, more researchers, more the higher system of higher education, the finest in the world, more venture capital. You talk about the future, you're talking about California and AI and quantum, on fusion, on space. California is dominant. We also have seen the last 3 years population growth. We've got to update our talking points. We've seen a 9% decline in unsheltered homelessness. We've got to update our talking points. We've seen a 60% increase in permits for housing. We've got to update talking points. I'm very proud of the state of California.
When I see this...
Oh, God, here we go.
I see a front run. I see this thing with the hand.
Unbelievable. Look at that.
So there's a governor race going on here now. Any favorites for who?
Okay, that's enough. I can't take any more. This is a blistering interview. This is a tough interview, according to California Post and other outlets. He practically licked him to death. Wait until his record really gets scrutiny, because he is absolutely going to run, and I believe he has a very good chance of becoming the Democrat nominee. And I want to see him really defend his record against serious, tough questioning. All of this and more, 888-971-SAGE. Now, the Iran war. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, in his unique style, summed up where he thinks the Iranian regime sits right now. Number 23.
Now, I don't know if I can put it this way on TV, but I'm going to do it.
Go ahead.
The president has Iran by the yin-yang. I mean, there's nothing going in and there's nothing coming out. The only source of revenue that Iran has is the sale of oil, and they can't sell a drop. And they have to continue producing, because if they shut down their wells, as they may have to, because of the low pressure, they'll never get them started again. And I think another 2 to 3 weeks of this blockade, I think the Supreme Leader and the Revolutionary Guard, they're going to have an epiphany and be born again. I'm just saying that everybody in the press is saying, well, we have to have taken their fissile material before we can have a victory, or those that are saying there has to be a regime change before we have a victory. I don't think that's accurate. I think we've won.
Speaking of the economy in Iran, this is Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent on Operation Economic Fury, number 31.
And Maria, just to remind you and your viewers, this began with the order last March from President Trump on max pressure, and 3 weeks ago the president gave the order to Treasury, myself, to begin economic fury. And the way to think about that, we were running a marathon over the past 12 months, and now we are sprinting towards the finish line. And I can tell you that we are suffocating the regime, and they are not able to pay their soldiers. This is a real economic blockade, and it is in all parts of government, all hands on deck. It is the blockade that our great Navy is doing. No ships are getting through.
And the Iranian regime has recently bombed again UAE. Here again is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, number 30.
Well, twofold, Maria. As you said, they really miscalculated when they started bombing their Gulf neighbors in a kinetic fashion, and in response, the Gulf neighbors, who I would describe as somewhat permissive in allowing Iranian IRGC money, Iranian regime money into their banking systems have been very fulsome and come forward and given us the details and allowed us to freeze those assets. So, the IRGC is watching their stolen assets for years, decades, for 47 years. It'll get frozen and go down the drain very quickly. The UAE has decided that OPEC is not for them. Most monopolies eventually collapse under their own weight.
Coming up, former Vice President Mike Pence, who was falling out with Donald Trump, of course, is defending Trump's decision to go to war against Iran. I got a question for you. Why are you still overpaying a wireless company that doesn't share your values? I launched Sage Wireless to fix that. Same nationwide network, plans ranging from $25 to $60 a month. Keep your phone number. A percentage of every bill feeds family through Food for the Poor. Again, a percentage of every bill feeds family through Food for the Poor. Just go to sagewireless.com. That's sagewireless.com. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Rocky is in Frankfort, Indiana. Rocky, you're in the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
It is such an honor to talk to you, brother. I love you. You are amazing.
Thank you.
I used to live in California after I got out of the Marine Corps back in the early 90s, and I'm telling you, it breaks my heart what's going on there. But I know something that can save you and millions of Hoosiers an aneurysm if you just come to this state and please run for governor.
Well, Rocky, first of all, Semper Fi, bro. I appreciate the offer. I love Indiana. I love Indianapolis. And I will take it. I will take it under advisement. Thank you so much for your service. I appreciate it. Mike Pence, of course, ran for president in 2024 briefly. He is no longer close to the president, but he has been defending the Iran war, number 26.
Iran is a leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world for 5 decades. They've claimed American lives. They've threatened America's interest in the region, and of course waged a relentless war against our cherished ally, Israel. And look, Republicans and Democrats know that on Capitol Hill. And that's why this is one of those moments where I just don't think you can be thinking politics on this. We got 3 full battle groups, aircraft carriers in the region. We got the strongest military in the history of the world. The president appears to be poised to exhaust the diplomatic outcome here. But at the end of the day, I think people know that we've got to finish the job and winning this fight.
The president says that the Navy is not going to escort ships, but guide ships, meaning giving these ships that have been stuck there for all this time the direction for the best way out. Unclear exactly how he's going to pull that off, but here's back to Mike Pence, number 28.
Brian, number one, I thank your voice in this debate when you said in your monologue, and over the last 7 weeks, it had to happen. Iran has been at war with America and our most cherished ally, Israel, for 47 years. They've claimed the lives of American service members all the way back to the attack on the Marine Corps barracks throughout the Iraq War, through their proxies, and I couldn't be more proud of President Donald Trump's decision to unleash the armed forces of the United States in Operation Epic Fury, taking the fight last year in Operation Midnight Hammer directly to the mullahs in Tehran for the first time. We've got them back on their heels. Right. Our armed forces have done a brilliant job degrading the military capabilities of the Iranian, but it's absolutely essential that we finish the job. And I think likely that will require us putting our men and women in uniform back to work.
And the former vice president also suggested that there was a way towards doing well in the midterms, number 29.
For the Congress, we know what's going to happen. Progressive, left-wing, liberal policies and impeachment tax increases, defense cuts. They're telegraphing what they're going to do here, Brian. There's no question. Republicans, by contrast, just need to remind people of the big, beautiful bill extending those tax cuts for working families, small businesses, family farms, energy independence. We're exporting 6 million barrels of oil a day now, which has taken some of the edge off the impact of the Iran war. And, of course, ending the worst border crisis in American history. We've got a great story to tell. Candidates for the House and Senate, for state houses around the country can do it. Expose the left, promote our conservative policies, will be a pathway to winning.
Right.
According to the Wall Street Journal, and I'm quoting the Wall Street Journal, Iranian officials said Tehran could use previously unused weapons to attack U.S. warships, from submarines to mine-carrying dolphins. End of quote. Don't tell PETA. Maybe PETA might now all of a sudden support the war because of the use of mine-carrying dolphins. The idea that Iran would have a nuclear bomb that could destroy part of the world, that probably wouldn't bother PETA, but using dolphins to carry mines, that probably tears it. Kevin Hassett is the director of National Economic Council, about the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, number 35.
Right. Well, I think the market has been pretty consistent. The fact is that what the president is seeing is that the blockade is working. It's putting an enormous amount of pressure on Iran. And Iran's threats to put mines in the straits have even made it so that humanitarian aid that, of course, we would let through to Iran, that there are a lot of those ship captains that are wary of going to Iranian ports because they're worried about where the Iranians have put the mines. And so, I go down to the sit room many times a week and get briefed on what's going on in Iran. And they're an economy that's really on the precipice of extreme calamity. They are having a hyperinflation. They're starting to have hunger. The bottom line is that the pressure on the great American people, because of these people who are really intent on American and Israeli destruction with their nuclear weapons, are still in power. One last thing, Margaret, I don't know if you noticed, but the UN human rights folks came out this week condemning Iran because they're killing people who are trying to stand up to this regime that's potentially, causing starvation and even famine.
Mark Montgomery is retired Navy Rear Admiral. He's with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Number 27.
No, I agree completely. And I think that Secretary Besant and the president have it right. We're going to have to take some discipline and patience here. Another 3 to 6 weeks of a economic blockade that cuts off 90 to 95% of Iranian exports, eliminates $15 to $17 billion a month in payments. I love that the U.S. Navy is running down the ships that got through before the blockade started and started to grab those. Each one of those is worth up to $200 million to the regime in exports. So we will bring this economic pressure, and we'll see if they crack. We certainly can't accept this 14-point peace plan. It's ridiculous. It includes war reparations, which we're not going to pay.
War reparations. And the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, talks about navigating the nuclear material that Iran has, number 37.
Energy prices have come up. Well, I think if you listen to Secretary Hegseth and Raisin Kane, our general, who's orchestrating this war, militarily, they've been wildly successful. The president's been successful in executing the military operation. Again, we're now navigating, the safety through the Strait of Hormuz, and also trying to navigate the nuclear material that Iran has, and that's taking a little bit longer, and that's going to play out over the next several weeks. But per Chris Wright's point, again, you're going to start to see immediate relief once the strait opens and supply flows again. We are going to be in a way better place. I will say this, Martha, it's important for Americans to understand we have a tremendous amount of energy in America. And so, yes, it is priced globally, oil and gas is, but in America we're not going to have supply shortages because we produce so much here. And that is a net benefit to the U.S.
If you think that the Nazi rhetoric is going to be toned down after the third assassination attempt, think again. I'm Larry Elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder, Salem News Channel, coming to you from Relief Factor Studio. Don't forget your Relief Factor. 800-4RELIEF, 800 the number 4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Bill is in Whittier. Bill, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Yes, Larry, how are we doing today?
We're doing great today, Bill. Thank you for calling.
I sent you a little packet with Joel Nakamura, Yashi Nakamura, and he was in the 442nd, and I went to the funeral service for that man, and let me tell you, that was one of the most amazing funeral and services I've ever been to.
Wow.
And I'm sure you know a lot about those people because you talk about them a lot.
I do.
And to think that somebody gets thrown in an internment camp during that time, and then they decide, what am I going to do? I'm going to fight for the country that did this to me. Mm-hmm. And it's it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and I think we only have 2 left that were in that regiment. And the service was just unbelievable, and his family, I've known them all my life. I grew up in Whittier, and they lived in Whittier, and their sons are just fantastic humans, and I just got to say it was a very moving service.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for calling and for sharing. I really do appreciate it. About prices going down, President Trump said they're going to fall down precipitously once this war is over. And the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, feels the same way, number 36.
Energy prices have come up. You're right. And again, you have to look at the president to say, what does a leader do? What does a president do when he sees a potential nuclear Iran? He's not going to tolerate it. And we can't have that when they have long-range missiles that can deliver those nuclear weapons to many of our friends and to many of our bases. That is untenable. And it's been a problem and you've reported on this. For decades, it's been a problem. This is the first president who said no more, no longer. We're not going to have a nuclear Iran. So he's leaned into that. And I think if you ask that question specifically, Americans applaud him for taking on this threat. And I'm proud of our president as well. And again, we're going to get back to lower energy prices when the Strait opens up. Those prices come down and Americans travel, and I think our economy is going to be set up for something that we haven't seen before in regard to American wealth and American opportunity.
The Democrats are going to do everything they can to sue the president over an allegation that he is violating the War Powers Resolution. This is Acting AG Todd Blanche, number 33.
No. I mean, what President Trump said this weekend is absolutely true. My job as the acting attorney general is to make sure that the president, that we all are doing the right thing legally, and we absolutely are. As we said to Congress last week, there has been nothing going on, no hostilities, no exchange of fire since in almost a month. And how do you end a conflict? How do you end this? You have a ceasefire, and that's exactly what we have, and Congress knows that, and the leadership knows that, and there's a lot of drama. I'm sure that Senator Schiff will come on here and say something different. This has been done repeatedly for many, many years with many, many presidents.
Barney Frank is a former Democrat congressperson from Massachusetts, House member, first openly gay member to serve in the House, and he's dying. He recently gave a long interview and said that the Democrats have lost the plot with their hard left turn. He said this stuff about abolishing ICE, it's ridiculous. Michigan Democrat candidate Abdul El Said, number 32.
You cannot reform this. You cannot retrain this. The only logical path is to abolish ICE.
Now, this is a Democrat candidate for the House in Pennsylvania, wants to abolish ICE. Watch what happens when she's asked a follow-up question about this, number 41.
You also said you're running to abolish ICE. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've heard other Democrats and activists talk about.
Yeah.
From an immigration enforcement perspective,
yes.
Who do you think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws?
It's a good question. And you can pause because I just want to think about it for a minute. Go ahead.
We need to continue, though.
Okay. Who do I think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws? Not the executive branch, so not the president. So it belongs with Congress. It belongs with Congress.
Have you bothered to read the Constitution? The executive branch is the law enforcement branch of government. Wow. Ever been in a bad relationship? You know, the kind, it just wears you down. You settle in, even though deep down you know it isn't how it's supposed to be. Well, that's what daily aches and pains can feel like. You stop expecting to feel good. You start thinking, maybe this is just my life now. But it doesn't have to be. With Relief Factor, you can break up with pain, as Anthony did. He writes, quote, I was dealing with debilitating pain and fatigue. I've been taking Relief Factor for about 2 months. Now I'm back to running my business, fishing, gardening, doing the things that really matter to me, end of quote. I've told you about my brother Kirk, difficulty going up and down the stairs in the morning, until he took my advice, began taking Relief Factor. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free, and it targets the inflammation that causes pain so you can move better, feel better, and actually enjoy life again. Try the 3-week quick start for just $19.95. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF, 800 the number 4 relief.
Don't ever call, 'cause the sun will have nowhere to shine.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I'm Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Later on, I'm going to talk to you about a man who wrote a column. He was a Trump critic and says he was wrong. And the column is about why he changed his mind, and changed his mind because of a speech given called Trump's Virtues. Then I'll tell you about what this man said he got wrong, and then I'm going to play the speech that changed his mind. The speech was given in 2022, 2 years before the 2024 election. And he, in the speech, talked about why Trump should be running. And it changed this man's mind about what he thought about Donald Trump. Stick around for that. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243 now. Ron DeSantis did an impression of Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries trolled Florida because Florida is now engaging in redistricting. And Hakeem Jeffries essentially said FAFO. Some of you know what that stands for. And Ron DeSantis said this in response, number 24.
We gonna do maximum warfare against Republicans. Florida Republicans, you F around, you gonna find out all this stuff. And, you know, what I said was, listen, and he's like, oh, if you do the redistricting, we're gonna take out all your members, we're gonna do all this stuff. And what I said was, go ahead, make my day. You don't think we're gonna... You want to come down here and spend money and in Florida, roll the dice and take your chances, but don't think that you can come down here, issue threats to us, and somehow you're going to make us flinch. That is not happening, and in fact, it did not happen, because as soon as he came out and started doing that last week, Florida legislature turned around and they passed a new map.
Okay, so let's hear the beginning of that when he does his impression of Hakeem Jeffries. Number 24 again.
We gonna do maximum warfare against Republicans. Florida Republicans, you F around, you gonna find out all this stuff.
Okay, now, my opinion, that wasn't a bad impression of Hakeem Jeffries. I don't have it up here, but Rick, can you find that when Hakeem Jeffries said that? I mean, we played it last week, but we'll play that when you find it. But this is Al Sharpton reacting to Ron DeSantis' impression of Hakeem Jeffries. Number 25.
Now, Republicans are trying to claim that black majority districts across the country are racially discriminatory. Yet Florida's governor this week has been out mocking House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries using an offensive accent. Well, what do you make of the GOP's racist rhetoric right now? At the same time, they're dismantling civil rights protections that have been an important part of our democracy for decades now.
So DeSantis's impression of Hakeem Jeffries is an offensive accent, and it's racist. I'm holding in my baby brown libertarian fingers an article from the San Francisco Examiner, April 29, 1996. Let's play Hakeem Jeffries first.
Political violence in any form directed at anyone, whether that's the right, the left, or the center, is unacceptable. Period. Full stop. The notion that any of us are concerned with so-called criticism from these phony Republicans as it relates to anything that has been said, certainly as it relates to the comment related to maximum warfare everywhere, all the time, in connection with the redistricting battle that Republicans launched. I stand by it. You can continue to criticize me for it. I don't give a damn about your criticism. First of all, that phrase, maximum warfare, everywhere, all the time, came from the White House in the summer of 2025, when they started this redistricting battle. And now they're big mad. Why? Because Democrats have decided to finish it. Get lost.
He specifically talked about Florida. Try and find that part where he talked about what's going on now in Florida. And he said, go down to Florida. He's going to campaign. Try and find that. Regarding Al Sharpton's anger over this racist impression of Hakeem Jeffries, April 29, 1996. At a fundraiser Friday in Washington for Emily's List, a group that raises money for liberal Democratic female candidates, Hillary Clinton started off her speech by saying 2 years ago, Willie Brown asked to meet this famous Emily List. And this is Hillary speaking. Quote, she's supporting all these people. She's supporting Diane. She's supporting Barbara. She's supporting everybody. Why won't she support me? Close quote. Clinton, continues the article, apparently used the anecdote, which she characterized as true, to illustrate how few men knew about the group who works for progressive Democratic women. The name comes from Emily, meaning early money is like yeast. Brown spokesman said the mayor remembers joking about it. Would Brown mind her accent? And his spokesperson said he hadn't heard the speech. It depends on how she said it. The mayor's not a real uptight person, referring to Mayor Willie Brown, then the mayor of San Francisco. If Hillary was in good humor, it wouldn't be a problem, close quote. So she dropped the G's to imitate Willie Brown, and Willie Brown said, I haven't heard it, but if she's doing it in good fun, good faith, it's not in good humor, it wouldn't be a problem. But of course, what Hakeem Jeffries said was, by definition, racist. Even though I thought it was a pretty good impression of Hakeem Jeffries, but then that's just me. Parents and grandparents, turn on any streaming platform, open any textbook, scroll any feed. Our kids absorb it every single day. You're a biological accident. The universe is pointless. That's a worldview being handed to them without their permission. But a new, powerful documentary, The Story of Everything, explains a deeper truth, written in the stars and the very code of our DNA. It's called intelligent design, something the cultural gatekeepers don't want to talk about, that we were created with a purpose by a creator. The Story of Everything does what no major studio would ever do. It equips you with the scientific evidence to defend your faith and challenge the narrative in theaters right now, but only through May 6th. And be sure to watch my terrific interview with executive producer Dr. Stephen Myers at thestoryofeverything.film/Larry. That's thestoryofeverything.film/Larry. Get your tickets right now, including, get this, a free ticket for students. That's pretty exciting. At thestoryofeverything.film/Larry. Again, get your tickets right now, thestoryofeverything.film/Larry. 888-971-SHGE. Do not leave town.
Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now, and under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast, because they started this war, and we're going to finish it.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder, Salem News Channel. I thought that DeSantis' impression was pretty good. Let's hear a little bit of it again. Number 24.
We're going to do maximum warfare against Republicans. Florida Republicans, you F around, you're going to find out all this stuff.
Okay, good enough. The Supreme Court decision that says you can't use race to create districts, it's causing the Democrats to panic, of course. Over the course of years, it could mean that Republicans could pick up as many as 15, 20 seats. We talked about how the Republicans who are in the House, none of them is from a district that's majority black. Not Burgess Owen from Utah, not Jones from Michigan, not Wesley Hunt, Texas, not Byron Donaldson, Florida. None of them is from a district that's majority black. Do you know that neither is Maxine Waters' district majority black? It's roughly 60% Hispanic, roughly 21% black, 7% white, the rest Asian or 2 or more races. So Maxine Waters did not come from a district that is majority black. How is it that her constituents, even though they're not black, feel that she can represent them? How's that work? What? You mean it's possible for somebody to get elected when people don't look like them because they feel that you're going to be able to represent their interests? Say it ain't so. And when I hear Democrats talk about Jim Crow 2.0, don't you remember who did Jim Crow? Number 11?
Today, I have stood where once Jefferson Davis stood and took an oath to my people. It is very appropriate that from this cradle of the Confederacy, this very heart of the great Anglo-Saxon Southland, that today we sound the drum for freedom, as have our generation of forebears before us done time and again.
George Wallace, Democrat, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Why did this man change his mind about Donald Trump? I'm Larry Elder. So let's get her teed up!
You want to play what? Say hello to my little friend! What the hell's going on out here?
Ooh, that's a bingo!
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder, Salem News Channel. Before I play you this speech, which was delivered in 2022, I want to read you the reaction to the speech. The man's name is M.B. Matthews. He's a conservative writer and wrote a piece that says, I was wrong about Trump. And he wrote a column before he heard the speech about why Trump should not run in 2024. He now says, quote, I was wrong. I allowed my distaste for Trump's personality to override his virtues, which are considerable. He said some people want Trump without his vices. I was among them until yesterday when I watched and listened to a speech entitled Trump's Virtues. It was delivered by a man named Tom Klingenstein. He was a hedge fund manager and also chairman of the board of the Claremont Institute, which is a conservative think tank. About the speech, he said, Republicans often say things like, I like Trump's policies, but I don't like the rest of him. And he said, this gets it backwards. Although Trump advanced many important policies, it is the rest of him that contains the virtue that inspires the movement. Trump, he writes, was born for the current crisis. A life and death struggle against a totalitarian enemy I call woke communism. The control of all the cultural and economic powers in this country. He says Trump revealed, he didn't cause the divide in the country. In a war, you must make a stand, and Trump is a manly man. Traditional manhood, even when flawed, is absolutely essential. Trump plays to win. There are no clean hands in a fist fight. Trump is unreservedly, unquestionably pro-America. Trump is a refreshing break from the guilt and self-loathing that marks our age. He continues, it is anti-Americanism that makes so many of us very angry. The left have trashed America's founding and our history to the point where some believe it is virtuous to hate America. Trump thinks we can vanquish all comers if we just put our minds to it, and he's right. Courage never demands perfection. Trump over and over said exactly what political correctness prohibits one from saying. Trump said Haiti is a blank hole, and that Representative Maxine Waters has low IQ. These were not racist lies. They were uncouth, politically incorrect, but they're observations that most of us would agree with but would dare not say. In 2016, he writes, again after watching this speech, we're going to play for you in a minute, in 2016, we loved Trump for his outspokenness, but many seem to have changed their minds without cause. Trump is the same today as he was before he was elected. The very things we disdain today are the things that made him the man for our time. From morning to night, we're told that Trump is a racist, but endless repetition does not make this true. It isn't. I take back my unwillingness to engage Trump on his own terms. It is the left, not we, who are politically correct. They are the ones restricting speech, canceling, and censoring, not we on the right. Unlike most politicians, again, this is a reaction to the speech, which I'm going to play for you in a minute. Unlike most politicians, when Trump sees a problem, he goes out and fixes it. He fixed our porous borders. He moved our Israeli embassy to Jerusalem after decades of inaction. He eliminated hate America critical race theory in his administrative agencies. He developed a vaccine in record time. He achieved energy independence and so much more. His accomplishments far outweigh his personality quirks. No other president did so much in so little time. Trump smoked rats out of hiding places. Because of Trump, we know our intelligence agencies are corrupt. We know that the mainstream media is not just biased, but that it is a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. Because of Trump, we discovered that our own security and intel structures are compromised. A large part of Trump's appeal, again, this is a reaction to the speech I'm going to play for you in a second. A large part of Trump's appeal was that he was a bona fide outsider. He distrusted the experts who believe that they know better than the average American how to run the country. This distrust was appealing to Trump's base, who believed, and with good reason, that it is the experts who created this despotic mess in which we find ourselves. We always knew, but never had anyone to champion that we, not the swamp, knew better how to manage our money, our time, our personal lives, our resources, and our families. Some will say Trump is a bad man, and that disqualifies him. I do not think Trump is a bad man. But for those who do, I remind them that a bad man in some circumstances can be a good president. If you're dying of thirst, and there's only one person offering you water, you accept the water gratefully without much concern for the character of your rescuer. We wanted Trump not only to fix things, but some wanted him to be perfect while fixing it. That is unrealistic in the average family, the average relationship, the average business. Yet some of us wanted Trump to be perfect enough to invite him to tea. He's not that man, but he is the man for our tumultuous times. Listing Trump's virtues does not fully capture his uncommon courage and firmness of purpose. Trump is the most towering political figure in living memory. Trump inspired a movement. If properly deployed, this movement might challenge the woke calms and, God willing, save this country. The very things are what these very things are what the left hates. Yet it is not the left that we need to care about. They will not embrace anyone on the Republican ticket, and certainly not someone they can bully. Someone they cannot bully, rather. We need to stop worrying about acceptance of our candidates by the left, or they will have won. He ends by saying this: we do not have to like his personality, but his virtues far outweigh it. I humbly stand corrected and offer my mea culpa. By the way, when he wrote this, President Trump saw it. And he said, wow, what a great honor to have this written about me. We must save America and will. Thank you, MB. Again, his name is MB Matthews. And the piece is entitled, I Was Wrong About Trump. He wrote the article after listening to this speech written by, as I said before, and given by Tom Klingenstein. He's a hedge fund manager and chairman of the Claremont Institute. I've had this discussion with so many people who hate Trump, including my 3 friends I've known for over 40 years apiece, with whom I no longer have conversations. The last one, a friend who lives in Canada, liberal, that didn't bother me about her. And she contacted me when Trump went into Venezuela and took out Maduro. Well, surely that must tear it with you now. And I said, no, it doesn't. It wasn't very long ago that Chuck Schumer criticized President Trump for not doing anything about Maduro. Now he does it and being criticized by the very people who said he wasn't doing anything about Maduro. Again, don't look at the swing. Look to see where the ball lands. And after 4 years of Biden pulling out of Afghanistan the way he did, saying nobody advised him that the Taliban would come back and the Afghan government would melt away, when 4-star generals advised him that that would happen. So he called them liars. Inflation hit 9%, average 5%. We were told it was transitory. We were told with a straight face the border is secured. Are you kidding me? And all this DEI and race stuff infused throughout our government and our schools. But Donald Trump is the Antichrist? Are you serious? When we come back, I'm going to play you the speech that inspired that article that Trump praised. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Don't leave town. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel, number 44.
Many leading Republicans and conservatives want someone other than Donald Trump to run for president in 2024. They say we need someone with Trump's virtues, but without his vices. Fair enough, but this formulation does not get us very far unless we have a proper accounting of his virtues. Other Republicans say some version of, I like Trump's policies, but I don't like the rest of him. This gets it almost backward. Although Trump advanced many important policies, it is the rest of him that contains the virtue that inspired a movement. Trump was born for the current crisis, the life and death struggle against a totalitarian enemy I call woke communism. The woke comms clench the Democratic Party by the scruff of its neck. They tell us lies, and they silence those who challenge the lies. Like most totalitarian regimes, they have a scapegoat, white males. They have a narrative, America is systemically racist. And they have a utopian vision of society where all identity groups are equal in all areas of American life. The woke comms control all the cultural and economic powers in America, from where they ruthlessly push their agenda. That agenda rests on the conviction that America is bad. As Trump once said, their goal is not to make America better. Their goal is to end America. Make no mistake, we are in the midst of a cold civil war. Trump awakened the public to this fact. You cannot win a war unless you know you are in one. Trump's critics say he caused or exacerbated the divide in this country. No, he didn't. He revealed, not caused, an existing divide. In war, you must make a stand. For that, we need strong men. Weak men do anything to avoid admitting the hardest truth because they lack the resolve to do what truth demands of them. Trump is a manly man. In present time, when manhood is being stripped of its masculinity, traditional manhood, even when flawed, is absolutely essential. Trump ripped apart people he thought were weak. Sometimes he went overboard. But his supporters excused his excesses because strength is in such short supply. Trump plays to win. When you're in the right, you have a moral duty not just to fight, but to win. And sometimes that means doing distasteful things. There are no clean hands in a fist fight. If there is one thing people know about Donald Trump, is that he, unlike the woke comm, loves America and wants to preserve the American way of life. Trump is unreservedly, unquestionably pro-America. He makes no apologies for America's past. Trump is a refreshing break from the guilt and self-loathing that marks our age. The America Trump wants to recover is the America of his youth, not out of nostalgia, but because this was an America guided by relentless optimism and supported by grit and determination. An America that had done great things in the past and was eager to do more. An America that was properly confident. Trump is still confident in America. In this time of national doubt, this too is just what the doctor ordered. Trump thinks we can vanquish all comers if we just put our mind to it. And he's right. Trump has the courage to defend his own people, a large and impressive political fact. And courage never demands perfection. Trump stood up for America every time he violated the strictures of political correctness. He said over and over exactly what political correctness prohibits one from saying. We have a culture, it's exceptional, and that's the way we want to keep it. Trump has made it clear that we have no duty to allow anyone to come into this country, and no one has a right to come here. This is our country. And when we do allow foreigners the privilege to come here, they must, as Trump once said, support our values and love our people. Trump said Haiti is a shithole, and that Representative Maxine Waters has a low IQ. These were not racist lies. These were uncouth, politically incorrect observations that most of us would agree with, but would not dare say. Conservatives, no less than liberals, are reluctant to criticize black Americans for fear of being called a racist. Trump, on the other hand, is an equal opportunity criticizer. We used to call that colorblindness. From morning to night, we were told that Trump is a racist. But endless repetition does not make it true. It isn't.
We're going to pick it up on the other side. Wasn't that a great line? They used to call this colorblindness. He's called Robert De Niro low IQ. Tucker Carlson, low IQ. But Maxine Waters, low IQ? Well, that's racist. 888-971-SAGE. I'm Larry Elder. Triple 8-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. If you're just now joining us, I'm playing a speech that was delivered in 2022 by a man named Tom Klingenstein. He is a hedge fund manager, donated a lot of money to the Republican Party, chair of a conservative think tank called the Claremont Institute. And a man who thought Trump ought not run in 2024 heard that speech and then changed his mind. And about the speech, this man wrote, and I'm quoting him, "It was masterful, and it shamed me that I did not make a distinction between Trump's character and his virtues, the former being deeply flawed, the latter being almost perfect. I need to man up in my defense of the former president's virtues." The speech was among the most pointed I have heard and deserves some exposure, close quote. Let's go back to that speech. It's by Tom Klingenstein, as I said, Klingenstein. You can get it on YouTube. Let's continue.
Contempt for political correctness showed patriotic Americans that its ever-tightening grip could be loosened. As Trump and his supporters know, political correctness cripples our ability to think clearly and act decisively. It is difficult to overestimate the significance of Trump's fight against political correctness, a fight which most Republicans are reluctant to engage. Only if Americans and their leaders stand up to political correctness and show it the contempt it deserves is there any chance of preserving the American way of life. Trump treated the woke media with the same contempt he treated political correctness, provoking their outrage and revealing their utter corruption. It seems only Trump understands that the media can neither be negotiated with nor reformed. It must be defeated. Unlike most politicians, when Trump sees a problem, he goes out and fixes it. He fixed our porous borders. He moved our Israeli embassy to Jerusalem after decades of inaction. He eliminated Hate America critical race theory in his administrative agency. He developed a vaccine in record time. He achieved energy independence and much, much more. Trump is guided by fact and common sense. He has no use for theories because he knows that slavish devotion to theories leads to nonsense. For instance, that children should be able to change their sex, that it is wise to defund the police, that biological boys should be able to compete with girls in athletics. I am certain that Trump finds it impossible to believe that a woman can be a he. With Trump, what you see is what you get. Authenticity is something you have or you don't. But it takes courage and independence to live authentically. In politics, most find it almost impossible not to be phony. Not Trump. Trump taught us crucial things. For starters, that China is a mortal enemy. Before Trump, the public did not realize that. Now the public does. Likewise, free trade, accepted as a dogma by Republicans and Democrats, is now highly contested. These changes in public sentiment are big accomplishments made possible by qualities other than policy. Trump smoked rats out of hiding places. Because of Trump, we know our intelligence agencies are corrupt. We know also that the mainstream media is not just biased.
More on this in just a minute. Now, hey there, parents and grandparents. Isn't it frustrating what our kids are learning about where we come from, why we're here, and all the big questions? Sadly, they're being told we're here by chance, a happy accident with no real purpose. So I'm telling everyone I can about the new powerful documentary, The Story of Everything. It impressed me so much, a dynamic documentary that explores the mathematics of fine-tuning the code embedded in DNA and asks the question mainstream media totally avoids. So let's equip each other and our kids with the truth about the universe and its creator. It's an absolute game changer, The Story of Everything. It's in theaters right now, but only through May 6th. And be sure to watch my interview with the executive producer, Dr. Stephen Myers, at thestoryoferything.film/Larry. That's thestoryoferything.film/Larry. Again, a dynamic documentary that explores the math of fine-tuning and asks questions our mainstream media totally avoids. Get your tickets now, including a free ticket for students. thestoryoferything.film/Larry. thestoryoferything.film/Larry. Again, free tickets for students.
Listen to the rhythm of the fall wonderful life band.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel coming to you from a Relief Factor studio. Don't forget your Relief Factor, 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Here's the rest of the speech.
Rat out of hiding places. Because of Trump, we know our intelligence agencies are corrupt. We know also that the mainstream media is not just biased, but it is the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. A large part of Trump's appeal was that he was a bona fide outsider. He distrusted the experts who believe they know better than the average American how to run the country. This distrust was appealing to Trump's base, who believe, and with good reason, that it is the experts who have created the despotic mess in which we find ourselves. Although his own administration sometimes made it difficult for him to get done everything he promised, his supporters knew he was on their side and was trying his damnedest not to let them down. Against the advice of most in his party, Trump has not let go of the claim that the 2020 election was stolen from him. His base backs him, and well they should. They know that Republicans will lose all future elections until they get to the bottom of the last one. Trump connected to his audience as Reagan did, because each spoke as a citizen to fellow citizens, without a trace of condescension. It wasn't an act, and Americans knew it. Trump may not have worked on a construction site, but he knew his way around one. One can imagine him trading bawdy jokes with his construction workers. Other presidents have represented the middle class, but none with Trump's common touch. Trump understands, as does the outsourced American worker, that a cheap smartphone is no replacement for a job and a life that it supports. Trump also understands that what Americans of all races and creeds desire are stable communities, and the opportunity to raise their families in a culture that values hard work, self-reliance, patriotism, and freedom. Some will say Trump is a bad man and that disqualifies him. I do not think Trump is a bad man, but for those who do, I remind them that a bad man, in some circumstances, can be a good president. If you're dying of thirst, and there is only one person offering you water, you accept the water gratefully without much concern for the character of your rescuer. This enumeration of Trump's virtues does not fully capture his uncommon courage and firmness of purpose. Trump is the most towering political figure in living memory. He has, like it or not, defined the politics of our age. In 2016 and 2020, he was the political leader most fit to lead in our warlike circumstances. Trump inspired a movement. If properly deployed, this movement might challenge the woke calm and, God willing, save the country. Republicans, however, should not forget that it is his support and the spirit they embrace that have become the life force of the Republican Party. Among the talked about alternatives to Trump, I have not yet seen anyone who possesses or even fully understands Trump's virtue. Nor have I seen anyone with his backbone and fortitude. One does not appreciate the strength of relentless gale force winds until one is in the eye of the storm. I am not suggesting that it is time for everyone to make way for Trump. Rather, that it is much too early to throw him overboard. If Republicans do choose another leader to lead the Trump movement, they must do so in full confidence that he will embody Trump's virtues. If not Trump himself, his virtues must be the standard by which we judge other candidates. Thank you.
Regarding what he said about Trump being authentic, Trump tells this story about how people wanted him to get a dog when he was elected. Listen to this, number 18.
That's good. That usually is very good for votes. I was never as much, they all wanted me to buy a dog when I went to the White House. They said, sir, you'll be the first president in 68 years or something that doesn't have a dog. I said, it's not going to work for me. No, they like pictures of Biden walking his dog all that, but his dog was a vicious dog, kept biting our Secret Service people. No, we had 28 bite problems. 28. This was a violent dog. That's not a dog I'd want. But for 60 years, I guess, even longer, every president's had a dog because they do it for votes. Some of them do it because they love the dog. Probably most of them do it for votes. And I thought it would look quite fake. Like the fake news, it was quite fake. Can you imagine? Donald Trump has purchased a lovely, lovely little poodle. And he walks him religiously every day on the White House grounds as he's inspecting the ballroom that's going up. They walk deep down into a foundation that's going down to China. There's a lot of stuff going on in that foundation, let me tell you. A friend of mine said, boy, that's the deepest foundation I've ever seen for a ballroom. I said, yeah, a lot of things happening there.
Now, when it comes to supplements, there are two things that matter most. It works, and you can trust it. Both are absolutely essential. Many hosts have been taking and authentically endorsing Relief Factor for over a decade. That's over 10 years of lending their voice to help you get out of pain, drug-free. Why? Because it works. Plain and simple. Relief Factor offers a quick start option. They actually lose money on this first offer, but they do it so people can try it for themselves and experience how much it can improve their lives. More than 1 million people have tried Relief Factor, and about 70% go on to order more. The creator of Relief Factor returned home from Vietnam as a combat-wounded veteran multiple times. Then he decided to help people. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, Salem News Channel. We only have a few minutes left. We'll get in a few more things. This is about Trump being a racist. Trump supports school choice to allow urban kids to escape from a poorly performing K-12 inner city school. Democrats oppose it, even though the majority of black and brown parents living in the inner city support school choice. Trump secured the border. Civil Rights Commission study found that the group most harmed by illegal aliens economically are black workers in the city with high school or less education because they compete against the illegal aliens for jobs, and the presence of illegal alien later puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $2,000 a year on their wages, and that was years ago. I saw Trump at a black church when we campaigned together in 2016 discuss about the nuclear intact family. And he knows that the welfare state has destroyed it. I told him that a young black man, aged 10 to 39, 40, depending on the age group, is 10 to 12 to 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. He said, where'd you get that stat? I said, Center for Disease Control. Have you heard it? Rutroll. Listen to this CNN poster, number 10.
What we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republican Party are chipping away at the long-term advantage that Democrats have had with black voters, with African Americans. You can see it right here. Look, Trump's approval among African Americans at this point in term one, he was at 12%. You know, he's been losing ground with a lot of people. He's gaining ground with African Americans. He's up to 16% at this point. And you say, this isn't that big of a shift. But I will tell you, Republicans absolutely love this shift that's going on because Democrats have had such a long-term advantage. The fact that he's actually gaining ground versus where he was in term number one, this has major implications for elections down the line because Democrats, especially in a lot of these tight races, you talk about places like Georgia, right down in the South, you see this type of movement for Trump actually gaining ground. This could have major ramifications and help put Republicans over the top in a number of southern places in the midterm election.
And he got 20% of the black male vote in 2024. Why? Because the Democratic Party puts the race card in front of black people and assumes they're going to pull that lever like lemmings for them. What have you done about schools? What have you done about crime? What have you done to improve the economy? What have you done about borders? What have you done about illegal immigration? Other than scream and yell and accuse President Trump of being a racist. They've got nothing. What did Gavin Newsom say in his interview with Bill Maher about policies he would implement to make things more affordable? Absolutely nothing. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let's do this again tomorrow. You know where to find me. I expect you to be here on time. I will be checking attendance. God bless.
What can I say? Mamba out. The mic has been dropped.
All across America.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
The Larry Elder Show.
Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.